Hello, and welcome to the new episode of Dakota Boys Talk Movies. Today we are talking one movie. We are doing a movie review for a Netflix film. I don't believe Netflix made it, though. I believe this is one they just bought.
Oh, yeah.
And it's actually a foreign language film. So, and that other voice you heard, that "oh yeah," is none other than someone who makes a lot of people say "oh yeah." Dakota. Dakota's here too. And yeah, so we're going to be talking about The Platform, which, from what I can tell, was Spanish made.
Yes. But apparently the cast and the crew was mostly kind of international.
And it definitely kind of has that international feel to the cast. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know if you watched this with the actual Spanish speakers. I went for the dubbed version.
I watched it with subtitles. I'm a purist. I struggle with English dub just because I want to hear the actual actors' performances.
Yeah. This movie was suggested to me by me, and I just kind of just played it, and it took me a second to realize their voices weren't matching up with their mouth. And I was like, wait a minute. And I was like, well, I've come too far. I can't go back. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, and then this was suggested to me by you after you had watched it, and I was kind of like, and of course it's on Netflix. It's kind of there. I don't even have to cough up any more money to watch it. And so it's like, well, I'll give it a shot. And I just kept watching. That's kind of the fascinating thing about this movie is it feels like a movie you want to keep stopping. Like something in you just kind of keeps going, I don't want to keep watching this, but then you do.
Yeah,
it's kind of a fascinating tug of war because of what the movie's about. And I feel like the director even maybe meant it to be like that a little bit. Like he did enough to keep you watching, but also he wanted to make sure that you were disgusted by some of the things you saw a little bit.
Yeah, this movie doesn't really have any bright, pretty colors. It's kind of the color palette basically sets the tone, I think.
Yeah, which the color palette is cement and fluorescent lights. That's about it.
Oh man, but well, we might as well just jump right into it.
Yeah, I guess so. It's kind of so the movie starts with a guy waking up, as all good movies do. We're introduced to our hero. Well, we'll just call him a hero for now. The guy we'll be following through the movie, and we're gonna butcher these names, but his name is Garang, and he wakes up in this room, and across the way he has a roommate who is an old man named Trimagasi, I think, or however you say it.
I believe it is Trimagasi.
And obviously that character knows why he's there, but through the storytelling, you're kind of finding out kind of the deal with this place. Like, is it a prison? Is it kind of a prison? And my best explanation would be it's a prison / rehabilitation center because the person we're following chose to go there, but it doesn't seem like everybody has.
Yeah,
you go there to pay debts of any kind.
When it comes to the main character, or he'll be referred to the protagonist from here on out. When it comes to the protagonist, it seems like he's volunteering for almost like an experiment in a way.
Yeah, what I was kind of putting together was that some people choose to go here to learn some sort of self-discipline. And it feels like our main character is there because he wants to learn some better self-discipline, quit smoking, and just spend that 6 months reading his book. Yeah, or
Well,
that's what he thinks he's going to be doing.
he's also promised a degree,
Yes.
completes this. And depending on the degree, I would probably be dumb enough to sign up for this. Like,
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. You realize you're in this kind of futuristic society where he can kind of do this time, and yeah, he can come out with a degree that's going to move him up in whatever society it is. Because honestly, you don't know what the society is. You don't see the outside world.
yeah,
It could literally be tomorrow. It could be 30 years from now. You don't know.
this movie could have started off with the famous tagline "in the not too distant future."
Yeah, yeah, I really could have.
Um, yeah, but anyway, he obviously doesn't understand what he's getting himself into, and he gets he gets put in with this guy who I think he says he's been there for a year, Termagasi.
Yeah, or just about a year.
Yeah,
Because I know when we meet him, he's like within a few months of getting out.
and yeah, he brings up he's a little angry because he's like, "Oh, you're getting a degree when you get out of here." He's like, "I should get 2 degrees,"
Yeah,
but he's in there for I get the feeling not by choice. Unless the choice was death, he'd probably be like, "Yeah, I could do some time in your little prison."
yeah, he's kind of in there, is in a kind of accidental manslaughter. I guess is how you could put it.
Is it bad? I found his backstory just so absurd. It was borderline hilarious.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of the point. Is that he's really the absurdist character in a lot of ways, where it's like he's way too chill for where he is and what's been going on and what he's already been through. Because we should probably get into why it's called the platform. So they send a platform down in the middle of your room to each floor, and at the top it starts. Think of the feast they lay out for Belle in the Be Our Guest song. It's just all the most wonderful, perfectly put together dishes of food.
Yeah,
And
there's
oh,
sorry.
sorry, no, go ahead.
There's scenes kind of throughout the movie. I think there's 3 separate scenes that kind of shows the care and the preparation that goes into it. It's like basically what you would get at a 5-star Michelin restaurant.
Yeah, it's kind of like that's where you're like, this is psychotic, because this guy is like just slapping people in the face for just the littlest imperfection on this food that's just being sent down into this prison. And we'll get into why it's even more absurd that they put so much meticulous time into it. Because obviously the first level, you're getting this fresh platform. But each level it goes down, if you just think about it and just without seeing this movie, you're like, okay, yeah, obviously less and less food is going to be there on each continuous level. And you don't even know how many levels there are. Nobody does, not even the characters we know here. But what's even happening beyond that is that everyone at every level is just jumping on the table and just demolishing everything, just slamming it into their face, just tearing it apart, not caring. Maybe they're spitting on it, they're chewing stuff up and throwing it back down. And so by the time it even gets to like level 10, it's already like a disgusting mess. And for all you know, at this point, there's 100+ levels that it still has to go to. And so you're realizing there's just probably multiple levels that are getting nothing or people's spit up food.
Yeah, we should probably explain this. Each level is like 20 feet high, and then there's 2 people on each level. So this platform spends 3 minutes on each level, and then it moves down. And you can't keep any food, and our protagonist learns that the hard way, because he keeps, I think, an apple, and then they start cranking up the heat.
Yeah, his first day, he just kind of looks at it, and he's like, well, I'm not hungry, and he grabs an apple and puts it in his pocket. Well, the minute the platform moves, your cell either completely goes into sub-zero temperatures to freeze you until you get rid of that food or die, or it gets super hot and cooks you until you get rid of whatever you shouldn't have taken.
Yeah, when the platform first arrives, oh, it does not look appealing at all. It's just everything looks like it's been just kind of torn apart, and um,
Yeah, and I think they're only on like level 47 at this point, or somewhere in the 40s.
yeah, they consider some of themselves the mid-level, but Trimagasi kind of is like, "Oh, you were so lucky." He's like, "It's a good thing your first month isn't farther down." And the funny thing is, they only spend 30 days on each level. Then they kind of get gassed and they fall asleep and they wake up on a completely different level. So it's so arbitrary where you end up. Like you could be on say level 200, which they go into is basically a death sentence, or you could wind up on level like 8, which you're basically in heaven. You're walking on sunshine at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically the first act of this movie is Garang attempting to hold, sorry, our hero, his name's Garang, holding on to his humanity. Him seeing all this just despicable actions happening above him, below him, with his own cellmate, and him just refusing to be like that and to give into that and to give into like this animalistic carnal nature. And it basically is he's slowly being driven insane is basically what's going on
Yeah.
in his attempt to do that, in his attempt to hold on to his humanity.
Um, each prisoner or each person, whatever you want to refer to them as, is allowed to bring in one thing into this thing. And for Goering, it was Don Quixote. And why he chose a book, I don't know. Maybe no one explained the rules that he could have picked anything, because later on in the movie you see someone in there with like a samurai sword and then a surfboard, and it's just like,
Yeah.
okay.
His own first roommate has a knife, like a knife that gets sharper every time you use it or something.
And that ties into his kind of backstory on how he wound up killing a guy on accident. But yeah, I shouldn't be laughing because it's a very dark, very serious movie, and it kind of one of the main themes is kind of society. The platform or this prison there essentially, and kind of represents society. And those at the very top, kind of just gorge themselves with no regard to those below. And they even though they're arbitrarily up there, they see themselves as better than the people below.
Yeah, and I think it even plays even the fact. And then what happens is, let's say you were on 120, and then all of a sudden you're on level 1. It's causing those people to be even worse because they're like, I'm only going to be here for a month. And I'm just going to just eat as much as I want, and I don't give a crap about those people below me. That's their own problem. They got to deal with it. I've had to deal with it. Who cares? I'm going to just live this. They're just like, there's just no regard of anyone else. Complete, like, animal has taken over in so many of the people we see. And and so it is kind of interesting that this disregard for the people below, even when the people below make it to the top, they're still not going, oh, I've been those people below. I should. No, they're just like, well, I'm at the top, baby. And so it's interesting, I think that's even interesting to kind of think about too, and how when they made it, they still aren't like thinking like, oh, man, those poor people down on 150 or whatever. It's like, screw them, and it's pretty bleak, really, to think about.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I don't know how much of this do we want to go into, Dakota.
Probably.
I feel like we need to at least talk about his other cellmate he had, the woman.
Oh yeah.
Uh, he ends up with this other cellmate that he comes to realize was the woman that did his interview to be in this, and he's like, "Why are you in here? You worked for the company that runs this place." You come to find out she's really in there almost as penance. It feels like she had interviewed and gotten so many people put into this place that she had to come be a part of it, fully understand it, and then she was just completely dead set on changing it in there. And I think she sees our hero as the guy that could help her in this change. That the level they're on is quite high. I think they're in a single digit level. And when she's eating her food, she's eating it normally and then setting some food on a plate. And then every day she yells down to the people below, "I made you a meal. I put it on that plate. If you could just eat the meal on that plate and then make another plate for the next person below, there'll be enough for everyone." Because the whole thing you're realizing is that they're putting enough food on that platform for everyone in the place if everyone just ate normal. But no one is choosing to do that. And
Yeah.
she just incessantly, every day, is doing this. "I made you a plate. Only eat what's on the plate. Then put some other on the plate. Tell the people below you to just eat what's on the plate. Then there'll be enough for everyone." She just keeps doing this. And at first, Garang, our protagonist here, just thinks she's an idiot. Because he's completely just become a victim of the place. Like, he's just lost. He's almost at this point numb to everything and uncaring.
Yeah, and keep in mind, I think he would have only spent 3 months in here by the time he gets her as a roommate.
Yeah, probably would have been month 3. Yeah.
Yeah, so 90 days and it's already completely kind of just crushed him as an individual.
Yeah.
He's not so optimistic, and he does kind of try to force them, the people below him, to do as she's saying. You know, he has his own way of threatening them, which kind of works. And then that really bothers her because she's like, well, they're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing it because
you're threatening them. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just goes to show. And then as the movie goes on, we kind of you find there's this lady who's writing the platform down because supposedly she came in with her what was it, son?
Yeah, she came in with her child, and everyone's like, "Oh, she's just this crazy woman because they don't let children in here." And she just gets onto the platform and just rides it, trying to find her child on whatever level her child's on. And everyone's like, "Yeah, she's looking for someone who doesn't exist. She's absolutely insane. She attacks, when we try to move her, she attacks us, or she gets attacked." It's just kind of this whole thing going on. And and so this movie's causing you to look at society in all these different ways, because after he's with this first guy and he's experiencing just how this place works and how there's no regard for anyone else, no matter if you're someone who's been to the bottom and made it to the top or whatever, then he's with this woman who is trying to say, we just need to teach through example. And he tries to tell her the only way they're ever going to listen to you is if you force them, if you basically say, "Do this or I'll kill you," is the only way they're ever going to listen to you. And so then you end up seeing these ideological debates that really plays into some of the things you see. It's really just a study of society around us and culture, and it kind of, and that's what kind of makes it, like, even though there's just very bleak things happen in this movie that you keep watching, it somehow keeps you keep wanting to just go a little further and see a little more, and that's kind of the strange magic of the movie. Is you just kind of want to keep taking the ride and see where it's going. I don't know. Is that kind of you or Dakota? Like
Yeah,
multiple times is like, do I want to keep watching this? But I kept finding myself needing to. Like, I have to see this play out. And
yeah.
then I don't know. I feel like maybe with this movie we won't spoil it, Dakota. Just
Oh no, that's what I was trying not to do. But one parallel that this our main character does share with Don Quixote is Don Quixote is clearly insane, but he's trying to do good, and he just wants society to be better. He wants to bring kind of glory back to his country, uh, and he does these acts that we view as crazy, but in his own head, he's doing the right thing, and he does resort to violence, but it, in his own head, he's the one, he's the knight on the horse,
yeah,
riding against his opponent, and I guess that's something I just thought I'd put out there because people who have seen this either don't really care about Don Quixote or kind of haven't read it, but that's a really interesting parallel. I mean, some movies kind of uh, do have parallels like that, like what was it? Kind of like with Star Trek First Contact and Captain Ahab. It's like, okay,
oh, right.
we
Yeah.
get the analogy. You don't gotta just keep explaining it to us. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very subtle analogy, and it's kind of
And it just causes a lot of things. Yeah, because it's like, oh, is the movie trying to say that you can only win people over through example? I don't know. Is it trying to tell me you can only win people over through threatening? I don't know. And that's kind of where that part of that magic happens, is that it just kind of causes you to just look at all of these things, look at all these things people do, and how really in the midst of it, the main thing we're all fighting is our own, is ourselves, is our own darkness, is really what is polluting everything. And that even when we think we're being the hero, sometimes we're doing the darkest thing. And there's just so many different things like that play in this movie that make it fascinating within its bleakness. Yes. And even into the ending, and what the ending brings, it causes you to just keep looking at these ideas. And so I guess with that, Dakota, I don't know, like, so I guess people are probably putting together that we're giving this a recommend, but do you have anything to add to like a recommend or like a warning to that or anything?
Well, if you're a fan of something like 1984, that's kind of an older movie, the one with John Hurt.
Mm,
You're probably going to enjoy this just because the film does have a message, along with being pretty bleak. But another analogy I could make, and it's the one that I made to you, it does kind of share some themes with Snowpiercer.
yeah. Yeah, it does feel like this is maybe Spain's Snowpiercer. And
It's much smaller, obviously, and not as action packed, but it's very enjoyable. Don't let the fact that it's in another language scare you off,
right.
or you could do what idiot old me did and just play
Yeah,
play with the dubbed version.
and I mean, and personally, I just prefer watching it in its normal language just because I find that a lot less distracting to read subtitles. But I'm not one of those snobs that thinks you have to do that. Like, if you don't watch it like that, you're not a real, just watch it whatever you're most, with foreign language movies. I just think it's great that they're getting watched. And so whatever is most comfortable for you where you can enjoy it and not be distracted. I think there's a lot of foreign language films out there that don't get watched because people kind of get worried. And so I just, or just don't want to give it a shot because of the fact that it's foreign. Yeah, I would give this one a recommend too, with a huge disclaimer that it has some pretty intense violent stuff.
Yeah, this isn't a family movie.
Yeah.
So hopefully you don't sit down with, the kids and grandma.
Right, and it's one that probably I'll never watch again, but I think it's one that I'll probably think about a lot. Just in terms of, I'm always interested in stories that are looking at man's nature and how a filmmaker is attempting to look at that and maybe try to find explanations or answers, but really just ask these questions like, what is man's nature capable of, and where are we looking for hope, and is there hope in those places? And so I just find that really interesting stuff to look at. And so I feel like if you can handle the violent aspect, it does cause a lot of that kind of thought-provoking to happen in the midst of that. So I think with that, we both give it a high recommend with maybe the disclaimer.
Yeah. So thumbs up with an asterisk.
Yeah, with an asterisk. And so, yeah, I do. This is one where I can for sure say I'm glad that glad in a strange way of the word glad, maybe, that Dakota kind of brought this movie up and that someone suggested to him, because it was a really interesting movie to watch. Yeah, it's kind of cool that Netflix picked it up because it makes it pretty accessible. It's just that it can also just get lost in the sea of Netflix too, just as easy. Yeah. Because when you brought it up to me, Dakota, I'm like, I think I saw that on there at one point, but then it easily gets lost in all of the content.
Yeah, the would have actually came out a little after, I think a week after Tiger King even.
Yeah, I think when I looked to see, because I was kind of curious, I'm like, what was the release date? It looks like it said it was released March 20th is when it came out on Netflix. And so I don't know where Tiger King landed.
I think it was it would have been days before that.
Okay. So yeah, so right around that Tiger King thing, just Tiger King got all the limelight. So
thankfully that's over and everyone's talking about Extraction now.
Yeah. So, but that's what we're trying to do here, is kind of showcase another movie that maybe you wouldn't notice on Netflix, that maybe you're realizing, God, maybe I should give it a shot. Maybe I shouldn't worry about the fact that it's in Spanish, Yeah. Yeah,
kind of back to that whole Netflix kind of putting these movies on there. They don't all suck. I mean, some of them are actually enjoyable.
Yeah, every once in a while there's a few. Yeah.
One that we never even brought up that was so under the radar I never even talked about to Steven was Mother. No, not that god-awful Jennifer Lawrence movie.
Oh, the Korean one.
No, this was an American one, or I think. And it had Hilary Swank in it, no less.
Oh, that one. I Am Mother. The sci-fi one.
Yeah.
I've heard really good things about that. You know what, Dakota? Maybe we should review that one in the future, because I feel like when it's on Netflix, it's free reign for you can talk about it whenever. Because I've heard good things about that and just haven't taken the time to watch it.
Yeah, but I'm constantly told Netflix has these originals and they just suck. It's like, they don't all suck. I mean, you gotta dig. You
just gotta know where to look, or hope you get a recommendation. So
just ignore anything on their horror list, because it's a mess.
Yeah. But yeah, with that, we'll close out this one. So we hope you enjoyed listening to this, and we have plenty more other episodes out there. You can find those on YouTube, iTunes, any other podcast place. So we hope you subscribe to us in those places. And also you can find us on Facebook, where we share news and episodes of the show when they're coming out, and just any other ridiculous movie thing we find and want to share. So it's a fun little place there if you want to like us over on Facebook.
Completely irrelevant memes a lot of the time. I'm just putting.
Yeah, you can tell that Dakota and I have gotten more and more bored over the past few months of not much else to do because there's been a lot more just out of nowhere movie memes just flying on the page.
It's not like we had pristine content in the first place, but
oh, that's very true. That's very true. We really thank you for taking time to listen. And I really think we need to get to that I Am Mother one of these days. And so be looking for that even in the future. So with that, though.
Coming to you soon, I guess.
Coming to you soon, probably. But thanks for listening. This is Steven.
This is Dakota.
We'll see you next time.